But now, my friends, I want to go ahead and get into the main portion of my stream, and that is my top 10 video games of 2022. I realized that I didn't really play too many new games this year. I was actually racking my brain of like, okay, what 10 games have I played? Because I really wanted to actually at least get a little bit of time with Callisto Protocol, and it may or may not have made the list depending on, the quality of it. I've heard mixed things, but I wasn't able to get to it. But I remembered I played another game this year that I probably wouldn't have ordinarily put on this list, but I was like, hey, to just make a nice even top 10, I put on there, chat. And, for the most part, I will say that I think this was a pretty solid year for games. There were a number of really big titles, some RPGs, some action RPGs that really impressed me, that I definitely have on my list, and some smaller titles, some indie games or some AA games that were suggested to me that I fell in love with. And so, yeah, there were some nice little surprises this year, chat. But we're going to go ahead and get into the top 10 right now. And at number 10, chat, and it barely made the list. It barely made the list, although it does do some things right, but I think it has a lot of problems. But at the number 10 place, the 10th place, is Horizon Forbidden West. Now, as you guys know, I was a huge fan of Horizon Zero Dawn. It was one of my favorite games of the previous decade. The 2010s was within my top 10 for that previous decade. And you guys knew I was really looking forward to, hotly anticipating Horizon Forbidden West. And, getting it, I was just taken in by the scale, how fantastic the game looked, and the combat. But there was just things about it that, I don't know, made me start to resent it, honestly, and where I just eventually fell off, where I started to feel burned out and I didn't want to play it anymore. And I think like the big things with that were the story. I think and some of the characters that I was interacting with. So much of the story is just mumbo jumbo sci-fi fantasy word vomit, and I'm like, you have all these characters talking about like whatever. And I'm like, I don't understand what the hell anyone's saying. We have a Super Saiyan Oprah talking to me about stuff. We have space people talking to me about stuff. And I'm like, all right, I guess. It's just, there was just so many times where they just deliver these huge exposition dumps. And like, they're trying to explain like what's happening in the world. I'm just like, can I just go out and fight some robot dinosaurs and some robot saber-toothed tigers and woolly mammoths and shit? Like that to me was what was working about the game. But the narrative and the characters and the side quests that I was engaging with, they just really bored me. I stopped caring about the world, which was the complete opposite experience I had, where I really cared about the world and a lot of the other supporting characters in Zero Dawn. It's just like so many of the narrative aspects of this game were just dull to me. But I think the gameplay, I think Aloy, the creature designs, all really cool, really interesting. But yeah, Chad, that's why this, for me, it was a letdown. Another aspect of the combat, I felt like the grinding, before, I remember like in the original Horizon, I didn't really mind so much like collecting the animal parts and upgrading myself and my equipment and things. In here, I found it I was struggling with a number of creatures, and they introduced like so many new arrow types, and I kind of felt overwhelmed. And there were so many times when I have to fight a creature and I didn't get the parts, so I have to restart and I have to wait for them to respawn again. And that was frustrating to me. The progression system just felt more overly complicated, and I don't know, I felt like I was just, hitting my head against the ground constantly. It's like, God damn, I gotta do this over again. It felt like unnecessary busy work, chat, and that was frustrating to me. So it barely makes the list, but I'm gonna put it at number 10, chat, because there are things about this game which are very impressive. I mean, I love the Aloy character. The game is beautiful, chat, but there's just other open world games this year that I think just did it a lot better. Well, moving on from Horizon Forbidden West, number 10, my number 9 on my top 10 video games of 2022 is Trek to Yomi, which, I think this is perfect. If you're a fan of Akira Kurosawa movies or old school samurai films from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, then this is the game for you. It's published by Devolver Digital, developed by Flying Wild Hog Studios. You take on this role initially as this young man, this apprentice to this master samurai who protects this village in the Edo period of Japan. You eventually rise to be the leader of this village, but your village is attacked, and you have to confront the various people that are responsible for your village's destruction and the murder of your friends and family members. And you literally go through a trek through this fantastical world, occasionally going back in the real world to confront these murders, and you're also your inner demons. It was very cool. I love the aesthetic of this game. The combat was straightforward and simple. If anything, like the reason why it's probably at number 9 and not higher is because it did have a lot of technical issues. I mean, I think I had the game crash me a couple times. There was a lot of texture popping, chat, a lot of hard locking on this game. You know, I wish they kind of fixed those kinks. But overall, it gave me a very unique experience. You know, we've gotten some other samurai games over the last few years, but I like that this one is like, hey, no, we're going to properly give you kind of like an Akira Kurosawa experience with a fun little fantasy twist to it. And so I did dig that. I like that. And I recommend you can have it where it's with English dubbing. I'm trying to remember what I had it with, chat. Did I have it with I think I played it with with subtitles, where they had the actors speaking in Japanese and I had all the English subtitles. And I really liked it. It was a fun experience. Just kind of, you know, marred in a few technical. It suffered from a few technical flaws. Moving on from Truck to Yomi, we have, yes, chat, Furry Legend of Zelda with Tunic, and I mean that's what it is. This is Legend of Zelda. Very similar to Legend of Zelda games of the past, something like, Link to the Past, if you will. Kind of has this isometric view where you play this little fox creature, you know, in full Link regalia, chat, you know, trying to free this realm and help your sexy fox mama god. I don't know. The narrative wasn't at the forefront, Shade. It was all about the gameplay, all about the exploration, all about upgrading yourself to become more powerful, to confront these, you know, various entities. The game has, actually a really surprisingly deep combat system with all sorts of weapons and play styles. And also like different aesthetics. Initially kind of starts out as, your prototypical Legend of Zelda game, but then it kind of has like a cyberpunk vibe and like a sci-fi vibe in certain sections you really like, and a fantastic score, chat. The music in this is very, very good. You know, the only reason I wouldn't rank it higher is because it's straight up a Legend of Zelda, you know, clone, which is fine. You know, I mean, that Legend of Zelda is one of the most influential games of all time, and it's one that's been emulated, and this person, I think it's developed by like a single person. Yes, Andrew Scholdice. And then published by Finji. So very impressive for a single person to develop this game, and a lot of it works very, very well in my opinion. But yes, chat, at number 8 is Tunic. And number 7, chat, this was actually recommended to me by Viper Fox, and that is Madison, which is a really cool first-person horror survival video game. You play this teenage boy named Luca, who has been given this camera on his birthday, and he's clearly lived through like has experienced a very tumultuous upbringing. Members of his family have been haunted by this demonic entity, and he has to solve this mystery of what this entity is. And throughout the course of the game, very early on, you realize that this thing is trying to possess him and take over his body. You do a lot of puzzles, many of which are very complicated. This game will make you feel dumb sometimes. That's the only thing I would hold against is like, I feel so stupid. I did a lot of backtracking in this game. But the scares in this are amazing, chat. We got Poop Grandma. We had Mr. Blue Knees, chat. Mr. Blue Knees, who was horrifying. There's a lot of great segments in here. I mean, you guys saw me getting scared multiple times throughout this game. It's worth it. If you're a fan of survival horror, chat, there is no combat in here, and you want to get scared, this is perfect to play during the month of October if you're just a horror game streamer in general. Like, I really enjoyed this experience. And again, thank you to Viper Fox for suggesting it. And at number 6, yeah, another horror game, we have Supermassive's The Quarry. Now, you guys know I'm a pretty big Supermassive fan. Obviously, they're the developers behind Until Dawn. They've done the Dark Picture games, which, depending on the game, I like more than others. I really enjoyed House of Ashes, which I finally played this last year. Thought that one was great. Man, I thought that was okay. Little Hope, I like, but I thought they dropped the ball at the ending. But The Quarry, to me, this is very close. This along with Until Dawn and House of Ashes are some of their best works. I mean, this is giving you the prototypical, hey, we're camp counselors. It's the end of the summer. All the kids are gone, but we have some type of evil forest creatures that are attacking us, and there's possibly a hillbilly family that's also attacking us. What are we gonna do? And this whole game is, it's a choose your own adventure. It's a adventure game where you have like these 9 different characters. You play them at different parts of the game, and depending on the choices you make and the actions, chat, the quick time events, they could all survive or they could all die. Again, these are perfect for streaming. I love just how random it can be and how everyone's experience could be very different from each other. And I think I played through this game maybe 3 times. I think twice on my own platforms. I went back and tried to save some people. And then another time on Double Toasted, which was great. So yeah, I've definitely played this game again. But yeah, this is continuing with, Supermassive success at creating some really fun choose your own adventure horror games. And finally, chat, we've entered the top 5. And my 5th favorite game for 2022 is Stray, the little kitty cat game, chat. And this game is so cute. Annapurna, which has gotten into game publishing for the last few years. For those that don't know, this follows a stray cat who is living in this kind of post-apocalyptic dystopian world. They get separated from their little kitty cat family. They fall into this walled city, which is pretty much completely populated by either robots, machines, and this like mutant fleshy bacteria. And, you traverse through the game world, you do all sorts of, platforming, you help out the various robots, and as you go, throughout the game, as you get higher and higher and higher, trying to escape, you see, how segmented the population is, whereas the lower regions are, yes, it's there's much more poverty and much more risk of danger, but as you keep going higher, it becomes more fascist and controlling. Like, the robots themselves have developed very human personalities, and they're subjugating one another. It's really cool. It's not a particularly long game, chat. It's only about, depending how you play, if you go for all the collectibles and things, probably like a 5.5 hour experience. But I really enjoy it, chat. I just like being a little kitty. It was super cute, Chad. And then it even tugs at the heartstrings, Chad. It really tugs at the heartstrings. For all those cat haters out there, this will make you love the kitty cats, Chad. Indeed. And at number 4, Chad, a game that I've been playing right now. Now, I haven't finished this game, but I've been absolutely in love with it. This has been such a great experience, Chad. It succeeds as a dungeon crawler and as a base builder and as a civilization simulator, and that is Cult of the Lamb. What a wonderful little experience, Chad, where you play this little lamb who was sacrificed by these evil gods, and you're saved from death, resurrected from death, from this godlike being called the One Who Waits, and you got to repay that debt by going through all these dungeons, acquiring new weapons, slowly upgrading yourself against these false prophets and these false gods, while also maintaining your cult, Chad, maintaining and building up your cult, making various domiciles for all of them, making barns and housing and having them worship you, Chad, and, obtaining power from them, influencing them, and controlling them over time, and just progressing to the point where you can get through all these various dungeons with great ease. This has been a wonderful gameplay experience. I know I'm not done with it yet. We're going to keep playing it, chat, for as long as I can until we finally finish up all those dungeons and keep growing the cult. But it has such a great, one, the aesthetic is great because it's cute, but it's also like really horrifying too. It's just it's an amalgamation of adorableness and gruesomeness. You can make your followers eat their own poop. That's hilarious, chat. I love making you guys eat poop. And I love the Twitch integration with this game, where people within your Twitch channel, if you stream this, they can enter a raffle and they can join your cult, and they have like certain aspects of the personalities. They're good at doing certain things, bad at doing other things. And, over time, you can convince them to do all sorts of things, chat. You can marry them, you can imprison them, you can sacrifice them to a Cthulhu hentai god. What's not to love, chat? It's a great experience, and it's my 4th favorite game of 2022. Highly recommend it. Well worth the price, chat. Well worth the price. And now, chat, we're finally at the top 3, and I knew nothing about this game beforehand, but thank you again to Viper Fox, who previously suggested Madison. That's one of my favorite games this year. But at number 3, chat, I have The Mortuary Assistant. This should have gotten more attention. I think the only reason why to get more attention for a lot of the Game of the Year awards at publications and, the Jeff Keighley Canada Awards, whatever the hell they're called, is because this is not like a AAA experience, quote unquote. It's a AA experience. But I loved this game. I think this game, and possibly Madison, but especially this one, scared me more than any game this year, where you take on the role of this character named Rebecca, who has had a very troubled past, and she's recently graduated from a medical program where she specializes in dealing with dead bodies at a mortuary. She begins working for this mortician named Relman Delver. The problem is, chat, that she finds herself embroiled in this situation in which demons and other demonic entities are possessing the various cadavers. And, depending on how you play, if you don't discover the right demon if it's in a certain body, then you yourself can be possessed, you yourself can be killed and spell doom for everyone else. It's great. There are so many cool scares. It's procedurally generated scares, so it's changing per session. But also, it's kind of cool because you learn how to, deal with a dead body, chat. I feel like, yes, I could work at a mortuary. I could work at a funeral service. I know exactly what to do. I know how to embalm them. I know how to fix the teeth, chat. I know how to get them all dressed up and I also know how to deal with various demonic entities that are trying to possess said body and escape and possess me and kill everyone that I know and that I love. I think I played this through, I think I did like 6 or 7 playthroughs of this, and it's well worth it, chat. You get so much. It's inexpensive too, and there's so many cool scares. There's other scares that I didn't even see. A lot of people were saying that, you didn't get this one. I eventually looked up online some of these scares, like, holy shit, really imaginative, very well done. I know that they occasionally do updates for like holidays and things. I hope we eventually get a sequel or something, or maybe like a really big thick expansion or DLC upgrade. But yeah, I was so enamored and so scared playing this game. You guys know. Anytime like the lights would flicker off on. And what's so cool is because sometimes the scares are subtle. So sometimes you'll be doing something, you'll turn around and everything's seemingly normal, but then there'll be like a fucking Schmeagle man like hanging up on on a shelf, and you don't even notice them. It's like, and then they just disappear. I love that. I thought that was so cool. But yeah, the Mortuary Assistant, chat, easily my 3rd favorite game of 2022. And then moving on, chat, here we go. We're at the top 2 favorite games, the top 2 best games of 2022. And I actually took a long time to think about this because I was like, both these games are so great. And they're similar in certain ways. There's probably one big difference between them. I was like, okay. I would say, hey, both of these games are deserving of being number 1. I could see people putting my number 2 at the number 1. All the respect to you. I agree. I think this easily could have been number 1. But for me, chat, at number 2, I have God of War Ragnarok, which is a sequel to God of War 2018. And, to talk briefly about, God of War, I was never a big fan of the original God of War games, at least the ones that I played. I think the gameplay was fine, but I just despise Kratos. He was just this angry, evil rage monster who killed anyone in his path, whether they were, good or evil. I don't know. I just thought that was a big turnoff. However, with 2018, Sony Santa Monica, they made numerous changes. from the gameplay style to the way Kratos presented himself, and giving him a character which he can interact with constantly through his son Atreus. I thought that was great. It was my favorite game of 2018. One of my favorite games, probably either my second or third favorite game of the 2010s. And this continues that story where we're now set. It's very much loosely based on Norse mythology, and we're getting off this story. We learn more about Atreus and what his destiny is, what he's trying to do. We meet numerous new characters, including Thor and Odin. And it continues to excel where the previous game excelled. I mean, it gives you very rich gameplay, wonderful worlds to explore, but it's the story and the characters that really stand out to me. And just the changing of all these relationships. There are so many scenes in this game which are just as good as any scene in any movie that's going to be nominated for awards or the Oscars, chat. Like Christopher Judge and the actor who plays Atreus, Sonny Sujic, I forget how to say his name, my apologies. But Richard Schiff as Odin. I mean, the entire cast does such a great job. Heimdall, that son of a bitch. That nasty son of a bitch. I love it. Everyone in this game it just excels. And there are some big surprises. Like you have Sindri and Brock, the two dwarf companions who were in the first game, the 2018 game. And they're kind of there for comic relief. They do some things I did not expect them to do with those characters. And they have some of the most heartbreaking, wholesome moments in the entire game. I absolutely loved it. You understand? You understand, Chad? I loved it. Who would have thought? On paper, it's like, okay, we're going to get Richard Schiff to play Odin. I'm like, all right, that's a little weird. Okay, I don't know. And he's going to be like a New Jersey, New York mob boss. What? That sounds ridiculous, and it works. Odin as a fucking mob boss? He's like, hey, can we give peace a chance, Kratos? Kratos, can we just give peace a fucking chance? Okay, you understand? It works. It's very, Odin's one of my favorite villains. Odin's probably my favorite villain this year in video games. And I think definitely in terms of maybe the rest of this decade, we'll see. But he's definitely one of the best video games of the 2020s so far, chat. So I loved it. I loved it. I mean, maybe if I have any criticisms, there maybe was one gameplay element that took me a while to kind of wrap my head around. And maybe there's certain sections where I can see people being bored by because it's more focusing on the narrative, not so much gameplay. But other than that, I absolutely loved this, and it ends the Norse era for God of War. I'm very excited where they're going to go next of this series and what characters we're going to continue the series with. But they did Sony Santa Monica did such a great job. They blew away my expectations with this, especially when it came to the story and the characters. But yeah, I don't think this comes as a surprise to anyone. But my number one, my favorite game of 2022, what I consider to be the best game of 2022, and that game is Elden Ring. I am not a king. I am not a god. I am the Elden Lord, chat. And I was the Elden Lord. I did it. And I got with my space doll lady, and we had space sex up on the moon. It was fantastic. Now, I loved Elden Ring, which, again, this is from Software's next chapter in their Soulsborne saga, chat, their latest game, their latest series. And I loved it. I loved it. It is challenging. Like past Souls games, it's like past Souls games. I do also think it's a little more accessible. The variety when it comes to combat, your approach to situations is, I think, wider and broader than any previous Souls game. Like how you can be. It's not just warrior, mage, and rogue. I mean, just the variety of your combat. Like for my character, Fluber Schmeckeldorf the Fourth. She was a spellblade, and so I incorporated like a magical katana mixed with a variety of spells, Chad, gravity spells and glintstone magic. And for myself, I probably didn't struggle as much as other people because magic is certainly very overpowered in that game. Hey, it worked for me, but there's gonna be points in that game where you're gonna go up against a boss who's gonna take 25, 30 times, take you multiple hours, chat, but I think, the thing for me for this game is it harkens back to the days of when I was a little kid and where I'm in a new world and I don't have any strategy guides, or maybe, I did use some strategy guides for this one because they're acceptable to me, but it's just like, you don't know what's around the bend. You don't know what's across this hill or around that corner. It was so exciting. Like the way in which From Software handled exploration is some of the best that I've seen in an open world game in quite some time. It is exceptional. And the ways in which they allow you to explore that world and reward you and penalize you, I thought was great. And how in which you want to approach combat and bosses and mobs of enemies, I really love. You could do anything, and I love that they gave that to you. There's ways that you can definitely cheese the game, and they're like, hey man, if you found a way to cheese the game, that's up to you. Play how you want to play. It was just the variety when it came to the combat and the gameplay that I loved this. Why I love this game so much. Why I played it for probably, God, I don't know what my final playtime was, Chad, but it might have been just under like 70 hours or something. Some people were playing 100 hours, some people were over 100 hours. And it has so much replayability because you can go in and create like a whole new character. You can respec your character, play the game. I'm thinking about doing different things. I want to be like a warrior-esque character. I want to be like a rogue-esque. There's so much you can do. And I love the way it looks. Like the boss designs are like so cool, and the enemy creatures are interesting. And you have that lore there too if you want to explore. Like if I have one criticism of the game, and this is for a lot of Soulsborne games, certainly the ones from Software, is that story is not at the forefront. It's secondary, it's tertiary, it's there if you want to look at it or look online, but yeah, it's about the exploration. It's about the combat, it's about the memes. That's what this game does so well, and it's one I'm definitely going to return to someday. I'm excited to return to. It's like this in God of War Ragnarok, because you guys know I really don't play too many games offline, honestly. It's mostly when I'm playing these games, it's on stream. After that, I'm doing other things, right? Because when I'm busy, but also it's just like, I don't want to get burned out just playing video games all the time. But this game, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, and also funny enough, Call of the Lamb most recently. Those are the games I still wanted to keep playing offline. Elden Ring is like I still wanted to grind out, explore different areas, but I wanted to share those experiences with you guys. And so to me, that right there is like, that's what makes you such a great game. I never wanted to stop playing, and that's why it succeeds. This is going to be, I think, this decade, especially Elden Ring, but I feel like God of War Ragnarok will also be up there, but I think Elden Ring is going to be one of those games in the generation people are going to look back to and say that was very special. That is a very important game that's going to have a huge cultural impact on the gaming community and developers and publishers. Isn't it already the most successful Soulsborne game of all time? It sold. It broke the barrier. People who are non-Soulsborne players picked up this game. For months, everyone was talking about playing this game. People that that never even played Souls games, like, I want to play this too. So that just shows you what they did. And of course, Chad, the human resources team that worked on Elden Ring was responsible for the majority of the great things within it, such as Vanny Vanispheres, that HR guy who I skipped over in the credits. Vanny was part of the team that made this game possible. So let's give Vanny a round of applause, chat, for that. He deserves it. Check out his content, chat. Check out his channel. Goddamn right I was, yes. So yeah, I love the chat. But a lot of great games this year. This was just my list. I know a lot of people have God of War Ragnarok as their number one, and I totally respect that. It took me a while to feel like I was going back and forth. I was really going back and forth. Mortuary Assistant was such a wonderful experience that I almost wanted to give it number one just because not as many people are talking about it as I think they should. And Call of the Lamb, I'm just like, that's another game. I just want to keep fucking playing it. I want to keep upgrading. I want to keep changing things. I want to keep feeding poop to all you guys. It's so fun. But yes, Chad, that is my top 10 best games of 2022. What are your top 10 games of 2022? I'm very curious. What are the games that you played within 2022? Maybe they didn't come out in 2022, but you just really loved, you want people to know about. Let me know.